Welcome everyone, and we are live again, back with another amazing contest. We have over 50 submissions for this contest, the first contest of 2025. It's a new thing that we started last year. Some of you already probably familiar with the format if you've seen our previous contests. We will be doing it exactly the same way. You can already see all the submissions on my screen. I have the brief also on the left side. I will go through that briefly, but the main workflow or the main schedule of this live stream is that I will be starting with some of the most exceptional submissions, so the really the best of the best, and then we will move through all the rest of the submissions in no particular order. Really, I don't like putting anyone into any specific category, but still there will be things that will apply to many of the designs. So instead of me repeating myself, I found this to be an easier approach, to start with the really good designs first, and then based on the things that you will all see in those examples, you most likely will be able to tell what's lacking in some other submissions, whether it's your submission or someone else's. I think it's an easier way to see and spot the mistakes or spot the things that were missing in those ones. So that's the format that we will be following. This is something that I started doing in the previous contest, and it made more sense, and I feel like we will do the same thing here. Now, we will have 3 winners, like always. We will have first, second, and third place, and we obviously have different awards for each of these places. I will talk a little bit more about this later, and also I will actually announce the winners at the end. So that's not something I want to spoil at the beginning. I will try to finish off the whole review within 2 hours. Like always, that's the aim, but let's see how we can go through everything without rushing and without skipping important aspects of design, because this is probably one of the best way of learning graphic design, to analyze identical or projects submitted for the same brief. When you review completely different projects, it's harder to point out the things that are lacking or the strength, because it's easier once you have more examples to refer to and to compare next to each other. And the more examples we have, the better. But of course, it also makes the review a little bit harder to make sure that I go through everyone's work. And I can't promise that I will cover everyone's work. I might skip a few of the submissions. So I apologize if one of your work doesn't get proper review. However, whatever is not covered, most of the things that I will be covering will still apply to those work as well. So even if your work is not covered, you will definitely find a lot of useful information here, and by just simply the others' work, it will help a lot. Now, I use MILANOTE, and we actually have an amazing offer from MILANOTE for the overall winner. Will be a lifetime MILANOTE user or pro user. So that's one of the awards. MILANOTE is something that we use for pretty much everything at Yes, I'm a Designer. All of our students get the briefs on MILANOTE, but we also do all our reviews through MILANOTE, and even for our course content we use MILANOTE. So it's an amazing tool, and I just dropped the link in the chat. For those who are joining us live, will be able to click on it, so you can already start going through all the work on the board while I'm obviously explaining things, if you want to on your own screen. Now, I am going to just quickly mention that we are already preparing new contests after this wraps. We already have a very exciting contest on the horizon, which is actually for a real client this time. So while these contests, even this one, although it looks like it could be for a real client, these are all fictional. We at Yes, I'm a Designer came up with the briefs. However, the next one, maybe there will be two contests coming up. I'm not 100% sure whether it's going to be the immediately next one after this, or there will be one more, and only after that the real client work will come in. We haven't decided on this yet, so if you want to be updated, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I also highly recommend to sign up to our newsletter, because that's where we notify everyone about everything that we do. So if you want to do this, I will just quickly bring up this page for everyone to see. The best place to do this is from our website, and then here you will be able to find free learning, and the best place to go to is either freebies or free courses. Free courses, probably the most interesting one. We have these three that I highly recommend to check out. Survival Kit for Creatives. This is for complete beginners who would like to get into the industry. Build Your Portfolio mini course, which is more for people who already have some projects that they worked on and they just want to refine their portfolio to get better chance at being hired. And then we have also this Illustrator Fast Track course, which is one of the projects from this course, a full 1 hour long course explaining from sketch to final vector art, the whole process. So either of these you sign up to, you just click on. I'll just show this quickly, because I got this question many times in the past. So this is the best way to get on our newsletter. Join one of these free courses, like here. Simply sign up for free, and then it will take you to the sign up page. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to just mention in case you are interested about upcoming contests. However, there's also another page worth bookmarking for yourself. It's from the free learning again, design contests. If you click on that one, that's going to take you to the page where we list all of our past contests. So we had the logo design, magazine spread, and book cover contest last year. And this is our first one, the coffee label packaging design. And this is where, again, we will be announcing new ones. And if you are only interested about the contests and nothing else, you don't want any free courses, you can also just sign up right here on this page. So that's even more straightforward if you want that. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention before we jump into reviewing all the work here is that we just wrapped our design sprint event, which was almost 2 months long. It was something that we started 2025 with for all of our students who signed up for this special event. And I am just so proud of all of the students who took part in this. So I wanted to make sure that you all have a quick glimpse at this. So I'm just going to jump into the final review board. And there were 3 main projects that we worked on. There was a perfume advert, which was mainly an image compositing and like product design project, where the students had to design perfume bottles. And you can see some exceptionally cool designs here from sketches, how they turned into these fully like photorealistic designs. We mainly used AI for these visualizations, and we covered so many really amazing new techniques that we can do with generative AI. And if you follow me, you probably know that I have this love and hate about generative AI, that I love what you can achieve with it. I don't love how most of the generative AI tools are sourced or trained unethically. But that's another conversation, which obviously it's a big topic. However, in the design sprint, we used generative AI tools for our projects. And there's some beautiful designs like this apple, for instance. It was for the brand was Paradise, and the tagline is no point in resisting. So obviously it has the Adam and Eve and Eden connection. and that's used throughout these designs. Then we had a logo and branding design for a fictional theme park called Wes World, which is based on Wes Anderson's style. So it's like a fictional theme park for him. Some really cool branding that we done for this, and we even did some illustrations that could be the map for the theme park. And then we had the third week, which was editorial design for a travel magazine, where everyone had to design a cover and also the interior pages like table of contents and the feature article. This design is by Eve. She has done an amazing job both on the cover and the inner spreads. But there's some outstanding work here as well. Now, if you are interested to be part of a community where you get this type of opportunity to work alongside other students and get feedback, not just by me. In this case, we actually had a whole board of reviewers, mainly my friends I used to work with in various creative agencies. They came along and gave like a joint review. We were all reviewing these work and gave feedback to the people who took part in it, and it was just an amazing event. I think yes, some of you are here probably on the live call as well who took part in this. I'm really proud of the outcome, and yeah, it was really amazing. We are planning to do something like this in the future as well, but the good news is that you can actually get a similar experience to this if you decide to join me on the next live stream. We are hoping to host this on this Friday, so not much wait for it. So just this Friday it's planned and already scheduled for. If everything goes well, if there's no illness that comes in, and I will be free to do it, I'm going to be live designing this time. So instead of reviewing, I will be the one designing, following a brief, one of the briefs from our website, from the website that we have for our students, pro students. Let me just log in here quickly. So very similarly to this contest that we are doing here, we have over 100 briefs on our site, and the students, pro member students, can submit work for any of these at any time. So it's completely free whenever they want to get feedback. At the end of the month, we always have a webinar. There's one coming up soon where I review any submitted work that came in that month. And you can see if I go to the projects, obviously we have over 50 courses at the moment on the site, but we have over 100 projects to work on. And the one that I picked for this week that I will be doing is the salad bar menu, which is somewhere here amongst these many briefs. I can't find it at the moment. I could search for it, but anyway, yeah, if I just search for salad, I'm sure I'll find it. There it is. So we will be doing this live, and I'm planning to do this around 3 hours long. So I give myself 3 hours, but I intentionally won't prepare much. So I won't even have much assets ready. I will do everything on the go and live. And while I'm going to design, I will also try to explain what I'm doing. Now, of course, many people do this on YouTube, but I don't often do this. I do it with our students, of course, often, but this is going to be an exciting experience. And if it's something, again, that you like and people enjoy, then I hope we can do this at least once a month. So, yeah, make sure you hit the little bell icon. Once this live stream finishes, maybe you can already find this YouTube live stream, the one that's scheduled for Friday. You can hit the bell icon on it so you won't miss out. Awesome. Cool. So that's a little bit of just background information here about the things, upcoming things, and how you can stay in touch and also follow what we are doing. Now let's jump back to the contest entries, and I think it's time to talk about just a little bit about the brief itself, just so everyone's familiar with what we are covering. So this is, the client is called Hawaiian Bliss coffee, and the product name is Aloha Sunrise Blend. So this is 100% Kona coffee, which is from Hawaii, and the tagline for it, I think I have the tagline here, yeah, from the slopes of paradise. And there's a couple of additional things like the weight that needs to be included. It's supposed to be a packaging design with vibrant tropical colors, and the design should represent Hawaiian culture and heritage. And there's a couple of additional things. I'm not going to go through all the things that we described. We have some dimensions and size recommendations for everyone who took part in this. But what we always try to do with our briefs is we don't restrict everything. So there's certain aspects that people who want to take part can change, while a couple of things are obviously given and has to be included in the design. And the main goal of this project was to design this new packaging label for this product, the Hawaiian Bliss Coffee Aloha Sunrise Blend. And this company, by the way, is a family-run coffee roaster. So again, it's a fictional company. Now, knowing that, and by the way, yes, the audience, the target audience is also important. Is consumers seeking premium single origin coffee experiences, and affluent coffee enthusiasts are the target audience. Now, let me jump over on this side, and I will start with these designs here. First, let me jump to Dory's work. Dory recently joined as a pro member. She hasn't actually submitted any work so far as I'm aware, but she worked on this one. Now, I believe this is the first work I'm seeing from her. Straight away, although the submission is really nicely put in a very nice layout, straight away there is an error here with the date. These are very important things to pay attention to when you send work to a client or when you present your work. So you have to always double check not just the typos, but also any important details like that. So if you include something on your presentation, you have to make sure that it's triple checked. Like I said, the presentation is very nice. I love this font. It looks like the Samsung font, brand font. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but it looks really nice. And then a little bit about the project, but this is the main thing that we need to focus on. And actually, these are the sides of the packaging itself. I really like the fonts that were chosen here and the colors. It's a very minimal design, but there is really good hierarchy here. We have a nice little box at the bottom, which includes all the important information, nicely divided. The proportions of everything works really well here as well. So we have that nice connection or unity between the elements, like the colors used here. But then, of course, we have the fonts that unite everything. And this flower shows up on the other sides as well. And generally, I actually really like the simplicity of this, and it looks great as a mock-up. So if we zoom a little bit closer, we can see a little bit higher resolution version of it here. Let me just zoom a little bit even closer. So yeah, I can really imagine this standing out from the shelves because of its simplicity. And there's a coffee shop near where we live, where I'm 100% sure they would pick this product just because the way it looks. It would match their style. It's like an artisan coffee shop where I'm sure they would be happily displaying this on their shelves. So yeah, really nice design. Like Maya is saying on the chat, lovely, calming, and chill. Works perfectly for the name of the coffee brand. So yeah, Dory, amazing work. And oh yes, by the way, there's one last thing here that is really fun, and I wanted to point out. Dora included this "Let me know what you think" page, where she points out that effective feedback is essential for a smooth process. I guess this is a template she's using with her clients, but I love the fact that it's a bit firm with the client. Like, we expect to have like a consistent, clear communication. So it's not about being like strict with the client. It's just being firm is actually a good thing. You should value your own time, so you don't want to waste time and not getting proper feedback. So it's actually a good thing to point this out. I really like this. I don't normally include this in my presentations, but I've seen other people doing it, and I think Dory's example is a good one. All right, now moving on, we have another really cool design here from Ofelia. Ofelia. I believe it's a she based on the name. I'm not 100% sure, but I am going to just mention that Ofelia was also one of our students, not a pro member, but she took some of our courses, both on Udemy and from our own platform. And I am really happy with the results that I see in this work, in this submission. I always love to see sketches, and I like the simplicity, not showing too much sketches, just some of the really good sketches that ended up being used in the project is always a good thing to show. It's also cool to show some references and examples. And Ophelia actually did 2 directions. So this is one of the directions. One thing worth mentioning, that if you are doing multiple directions, it's always good to give a name to each of those directions, just to make it clear. And I would even include a running header or running head in the PDF on the top, and even a table of contents, just to be clear on how much of that presentation is connected to one of the like roots or themes that you went for, and which one is the other one, because roughly halfway through this PDF, this is where the second style is starting. So it's just a little feedback there, but overall, this first direction is focusing on these simple geometric shapes and vibrant colors. And we can see that there's a couple of really nice elements created. They really work well together. The color combination or palette is beautiful. And I love this O with the simple line in the middle representing the coffee bean. I think that's a very clever idea that we can see within the logo itself. So if I zoom a little bit closer, you can see it right there. And yeah, this is how it looks. Again, more minimal design, works really nicely. Lovely color palette, really good use of space. I like to see negative space in packaging design. It really helps to focus onto the important details, and then having these simple elements at the bottom just gives the whole thing a nice vibe without distracting from the main important information in the middle. You could argue that this is a little bit too simplistic, having everything centered. It feels slightly lazy, but it still works because of the different scale, different typefaces that are used here, and colors. So there's still enough variety without being too repetitive. And yeah, we can have a closer look at the design, and the back of the design is a little bit too dark for my liking. I wouldn't use black on a packaging design, even though the cover has some black, the outline. Again, that I don't think that's necessary. These more pastel colors work much better in my opinion. And then we have this additional direction. Again, I would have liked to see a name, or you could call it, I think these are called tiki masks. Maybe this just could be called tiki direction. And then we have these nice sketches again, the references and the logo. Very cool logo. I really like it, the way the word aloha is integrated with this mask, and the mask on its own works really well in this circular badge. Very, very nicely done. And then we have another very effective color palette. Really like this fresh, vibrant color palette. Maybe a little bit too much yellow. Yellow obviously reminds us more of lemon, so maybe it feels a bit more like tea, like herbal tea. I wouldn't immediately think of coffee when I see this. That's the only issue with this color palette, but definitely works nicely in harmony together, the colors, and it's a good proportion of the colors that I use. So the primary, secondary, tertiary colors are set up really well, and it looks great on these mock-ups. So overall, really, really nice work. I like both directions. If I had to choose one of these two directions, I would go for the first one. So again, I like this one a little bit more, but they are fairly similar. So Ofelia, sorry, I read the name wrong. Actually, I can see the spelling in two different ways, so I'm not 100% sure which one is the correct one. But yeah, so it's a really, really good work, and I'm really glad you decided to submit your work. Now, moving on, we have one from Alexandra. Alexandra did an amazing job as well. I particularly love her illustration of this Hawaiian lady. So we can see the sketches, the different compositions first, these thumbnail sketches, and the color explorations as well. And then we see the final vector version of it here on the bottom right. So let me just zoom closer, just so you can all can see how much detail was added to this. It's really, really nice. I love the proportions, the stylization, exaggeration of certain features, like the flowing, really like long hair, representing both the sea, which obviously is important for this product. Hawaii is obviously surrounded by sea, so it's the waves and the hair in one. Works great. In my opinion, it should have been a little bit more brighter blue, the hair. I think it would be a little bit more obvious that that is the sea. I think that may be lost because how dark it is at the moment. But yeah, in general, it's a really cool direction. And let me jump to this second entry page, because this is the one that uses this illustration. Now, the back of the label is great. I love this bento box style separation of the important details. Very quick and easy to find things. So this is a great example of visual hierarchy, where we have the same font and same size highlighting these important details. And there's a QR code as well here at the bottom. We have the barcode. Very informative and very clear, easy to see what's going on. We can see this also here, if I zoom back a bit, how it would look on a mock-up. Obviously, it looks very nice. And then the front of the cover, front of the packaging, again, very, very nice. Really good proportions. The one important detail that's missing, though, is the name of the company. So we only see the name of the blend and what type of product it is. The premium 100% Kona ground coffee is there, but we don't see the Aloha Hawaiian Bliss coffee, sorry. So we don't see that, only on the back. I think that would be useful to also have here on the front. I'm not 100% sure about this very minimal logo, especially without the name Hawaiian Bliss Coffee. So here on the back, it's together. I think it would be useful to have it on the front as well. And one additional thing, again, I am not keen on this dark, completely black background, especially with the dark hair. So the two things doesn't separate enough. There's not enough contrast there. And I don't mind having black on the text, but there shouldn't be anything else than that. Using black, in my opinion. It could have been easily replaced with a vibrant, more bright color, and like even this green from the flowers or the wreath on the hair. I think that would have worked really well on the frame around, and a slightly brighter blue hair. I think it would be chef's kiss. But there is another version of this. I would say even darker, slightly different composition. I like the fact that here we have again this nice box that really has all the important information, but we still don't see the name of the company on the front, and it's still a little bit too dark. And then there is also another direction from Alexandra, which in this case almost completely black with a couple of bright colors popping from the black background. It certainly feels more like a coffee product because of the dark colors, but I would say a dark brown color would have worked better. I feel like black again is a little bit too dense, too muted. If we want to have something vibrant, I think it would have worked better to have some nice color hue in the background. But otherwise, I really like the abstract composition with the script font on the side, turn 90 degrees clockwise. That's also a really nice touch. Again, out of all of these three, I would say this is the most successful composition. I love this one, and it's a shame there is obviously no way of seeing updates on this. That's something that happens with our pro member students. I would give feedback and they would return with the updated design, and I would give feedback until I feel like I can't say anything more, and then that's when they have their work ready for their portfolio. So that's the main aim. One of the main aims of the pro membership that we do is that we obviously teach our students, but help them to get their work presented the best way possible, and to really have their skills shine through their work. Yeah, and that's something that I think is working really well here. I mean, the presentation is really nice, and I would love to see updates on this from Alexandra. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. I am going to move on to this design by Samantha. Now, Samantha submitted 2 directions. I like the fact that it just simply says option A, and then we have the logo, and already a bit of like taste of the style here. And this was going for the Hawaiian floral illustrations, and I believe Samantha chose to do a watercolor style, so Hawaiian flowers, watercolor, and then this is actually the palette that she designed herself. I believe these are more like life traced or image traced elements, but maybe some of these were created by her by hand. I'm not 100% sure, but then we can see a sketch and how it turned into the fully refined version. I really like to see a comparison like this. So if you present your sketch, it's cool to show it side by side next to how you turn that into the final design. So instead of showing 100 different sketches, this is actually a really good composition, great presentation. And although I really like the way it looks, one thing that I feel like got a little bit oversimplified is the mountains detail within that top section. So the focus is on the sun, which is fine because that's in the name of the product, sunrise blend, but the mountains got a little bit too vague. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not feeling that line that is there or the proportions of it. I feel like the sketch actually had a better setup to start with on that front. However, the overall design I think works really well. I love that pattern in the background, very like happy, joyful design. Really gets again the vibe of this product and the feeling right. I think that works really well. And once I see it on a mock-up, I actually don't mind the logo that much, but still that's the only weak spot here that I see. It stands out still for me. So that's the thing. It's a shame that doesn't meet the quality of the rest of the design, or it's just that it doesn't align with it. However, this second direction, and again, in case of Samantha's presentation, I love the fact that there is a clear separation. There's even a divider within the presentation that this is option B. And now we are talking about another direction, which this gives us like a hint of how it's going to look like. And she explains that she found the tropical patchwork patterns to be inspiring for her, and that's what she then focused on. So here we can see a couple of examples of these, and then we can see that Samantha actually did her own patchwork illustration in Procreate. Now this slide I love. This is especially useful to show in a presentation because of the fact that generative AI can create really, really amazing illustrations. And it's very hard to differentiate nowadays what's actually created by hand by someone and what is generated. Even for me, I sometimes can tell, but there are some generated illustrations that can easily fool me. So especially when it comes to more abstract things and more stylized things where it doesn't have to be like completely realistic. So to see something like this, where I not only see the creator's hand and the Apple Pencil, I believe it's an Apple Pencil, although it looks slightly different, but maybe it is a newer version of the Apple Pencil. I have one here next to me, but I have an older Apple Pencil actually, so yeah, it looks slightly different. But anyway, I love the fact that I see Procreate, I see the layers. Although, again, if someone really wants to fake something like this, if they end up using generated illustration, they could still create a mock-up like this where they make it look like there's a layered file. But who would go that far to fool someone? I think that's quite sad if anyone does that. But for a client or for like a creative director to see something like this, that is a reassuring sign that there's actually manual work put into this, not just prompting. I'm not trying to belittle prompting. Coming up with good prompts is also a skill in its own place, but creating illustration by hand is still something that obviously is a superior skill in my opinion. And this is a very nice style. I really like it. I like how it's rough, but still there's enough detail in it. I like the proportion of the elements. I like the again, the unity, that everything has that same visual style. So it clearly is a family of objects. They all relate to each other. So it's not like just selected stock assets put together and just refined a bit to make them look like they match the style. It's actually all handmade. And then we can see the logo here, Hawaiian Bliss Coffee. This is a very nice composition. And then I love how it all comes together in the final packaging. So we have a nice horizontal strip that runs across it with the brown of the coffee or a sack, and then we also have that texture on the top and the bottom, so it's not completely white. It still has that a nice texture on it, and the patchwork. And I think that's it. Yeah, so really nice. I would say out of these two, I actually prefer the second one. I find it more interesting and unique, but the first one is also a very good has a lot of potential. So yeah, great work. And Shumi in the chat is just pointing out that this patchwork style again goes with the bento grid trend that we see still. I mean, it started a year ago or 2 years ago, it still is going strong. That's something that is clearly visible here, and it works really well. Okay, now I still have some amazing work coming up. So let me move on to this one. We have the submission by Ivana, and I know Ivana is here on the live stream. So I would like to congratulate you for this, because I really love this submission. I love your research in the topic. I don't know whether you've been to Hawaii or not, but I can clearly tell that you've done a very, very in-depth research on Hawaiian culture. I love the presentation as well. Really cool font that you found to use. And immediately you start explaining symbolism from Hawaii, like anata, which is a fundamental element in their tattoos, symbolizing people and relationships and life stories. And you explain how this is turned into your logo. So there's the anata symbol. Then when it's put together, two of them, that usually represents a couple or marriage. And then applying that to a coffee bean, we get this. So yeah, that is really nice. The only thing I would have done differently here on this slide is I would have changed the orientation. So when you do plus plus equals, it's always better to have a horizontal layout. So I would have just simply have this put into horizontal, and then below it I would have the text written like that. It would be much easier to follow the process. So when we adding up things, again, imagine that you have your plus sign there, and then the equal sign. It would be much easier to see the evolution of the logo and how it got to the final version of it. I hope that makes sense. But otherwise, it's a really nice way of always showing and explaining how it's done. And then we have the badge logo, the vertical logo, the different variations of the logo. Very nicely presented again. It's important to think of the different use cases of the logo. So the more versatile it is and the more variations are already designed in the beginning, the better. So I think that works really well. And moving on, we have the colors. I love the names of the colors. That's really a nice touch. Then we have the fonts. And then we have one of the main elements of the packaging, this tattoo or pattern, which again includes a lot of these symbols from the Hawaiian culture. So we can see many of them here, and then these are actually explained even more in detail what they mean. And then in the end we have some mock-ups showing how it could work in situ, and then we have the actual packaging. Looks great. It definitely has that Hawaiian feel to it. I think you really nailed that aesthetic, and it really looks like a coffee packaging. So even though it's a bit more monochrome, we only have a single color here besides black and white. It still feels something that would stand out from a shelf, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, this illustration looks great. It really stands out. It could be used for so many different things, but yeah, like a tote bag, I think it works really well on that. So I would say my main point here with Ivana is the in-depth research and understanding of the culture that's behind this product. And whenever a brief is very geographically very narrowed down to a specific area, it's so important to do this. The same thing if the target audience is very specific, you have to really get to know that audience and understand their needs and wishes and desires, and that has to be reflected in your presentation and in the way you create your designs. So yeah, great presentation and really nice design by Ivana. Now moving on, an amazing work submitted by our pro member Magdalina. Magdalena has been with us for around 4 years as a pro member, and I've seen her grow as a creator. She's always been very talented. She's always been very good at illustration, but her work is just keeps getting better, and I'm so excited always to see her work. She actually helped us review the work of everyone who took part in the design sprint as well, and she actually works with us. We often end up working with some of our students and hire them to do some designs for us. And yeah, she's really great at design, and I love this packaging, mainly how different it is from all the other submissions. It's very elegant, but it still has that Hawaiian vibe to it. It still captures the most important elements, the sea and the sun, but in a very like elegant. I can't really say it in a better way. It's a very elegant design. The colors also really help. So this white, blue, and gold. It's supposed to be a foil, gold foil on the packaging, and it actually looks like it is a gold foil already on this mock-up, which is great. I'm really glad that Magdalena managed to achieve that. Make it clear that it is there. And then we can see a little bit of rationale here about it. So yeah, she's pointing out its premium, elegance, simplicity, 100% comes through straight away. Now this is a page I love to see, and I highly recommend to do this for any brief that anyone is doing as a designer, to show at least a slide of the competitors, and that showing that you've done your market research as well. So not just culturally aware of what you're designing for, but also see the competitors and see what your product is going to competing with once it's on the shelves. So this is a great example. There will be an even better example of showing the competitors coming up, so keep an eye out for that. But this is already really good. We get a sense for the different styles here, and again, I mentioned that dark background is not good, or I don't recommend dark background. We can see that some of these coffee labels are completely black in the background or on their background, while there's some that's completely white. So it's not like a general rule or rule of thumb that you have to follow, but for this particular brand, when we specifically defined that we want vibrant, warm colors, that's when I feel like black is not the right way to go. And the best example is this one, Magdalena's work, where although she used a dark color, this blue, and it's actually a gradient, so it's goes from dark to bright, it's still not black. It's just dark blue. And the logo is the only thing that is black on it. I am not 100% sure whether this needs to be black. I think it could have been also gold or white. But I guess, again, like the important thing is to make sure that it's very noticeable here on the front. But I feel like it could have been also a little bit more highlighted on the sides. But that's just a very minor thing. Apart from that, I love how big the sun is on both the front and the back. That really gets the main element, the sunrise, like center stage. And also within the sun, we see the mountain or the volcano, the sea, and the flowers. So it is, in a way, turns into a container as well. And that's a really clever thing to do in design. So when you lack space, there's not enough space on a small packaging like this, you have to be clever about combining things. So making something very big, like the sun being the highlighted or focal point, focal element, it would be impossible not to utilize that space for something else. So why not use it as a container for all the important details? So it's a very clever way of combining things and utilizing the space within the design. So yeah, Really nice work. And then obviously these mock-ups, they look great. If I go a little bit further down, actually, sorry, we've already seen these. Here's some lovely, lovely mock-ups. Magdalena is doing an amazing job with her mock-ups always. Coasters, coffee mugs, little tags. Yeah, looks amazing. Hannah is pointing out that it feels a little bit businessy or corporate, the combination of the colors. I agree that it could be seen like that, but I feel like it would still work and be recognizable for what it is. Maybe one element that I would have added is maybe just a couple of coffee bean, whether it's illustration or photographic element. I think that would have helped. But again, like if you want to keep it minimal and elegant, the more of these things you add, especially you start adding a photographic detail, it can overcrowd the design and lose the simplicity and the direction. But I feel like, yes, I see your point, Hannah, but I still stand by this color palette. I really like it. Not saying this is the best color palette, but it's a very cleverly chosen palette that I still feel like works really well. It's unusual, I have to say, yes, it is unusual, but I think it still captures the essence of this brief very well. Now, here's another amazing submission by Saida, I believe her name. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. Saida Dean. I really like Saida's Instagram page. So whoever is checking out the board, you will find her link there. Go and check it out. And the first pinned post that she has is a quick introduction video about herself. I think it's a very clever way of branding yourself and really getting a feel for you as a person. I think that's great. So I really like that approach that she used. And I also really like her artist name, I guess, Calm Palm. I don't know whether she chose this specifically for this project or it was already her name. I believe it was. It just aligns well with this brief. But yeah, it's a really cool little logo here at the bottom that I believe is her signature that she uses. Now, we can see a bit of introduction here. I'm just going to go faster because otherwise if we spend too much time, we won't have time for everyone's work. But here is the example of the market research. And I really like the way Saida did this. I love the fact that there is already a way of organizing things, like showing that a couple of packaging shows animals on them, then some of them uses mountains on them or volcanoes. Then there's the women drinking coffee is a common element that's used. And then amongst many of these, there's botanical elements. That's almost like an overall theme that everyone's using. And then the decaf version is usually using green. So wherever there is a strong green color, that's usually decaf. And premium usually represented with gold. So this type of research, for both looking at the elements and the colors used, is amazing. So this audit, I love. It's probably one of the best ones I've seen. So really good work on that, Saida. And again, similarly to what we've seen earlier with Ivana, the really in-depth research and understanding of the concept or the product is really comes through here. The fact that she is using the donkeys in her designs is backed up by this little background information that in this particular area, the Kona area, donkeys are referred to as nightingales because they were the one transporting the coffee and they are highly respected because of that. Obviously, since there are good roads, they are using cars now. But in the past, these animals were the one carrying this particular coffee and transporting it. So that's why they are still cherished and respected in that area. So having that information there is great, and it really just helps us to appreciate why she's going to use the donkey in her designs. And then she made it very clear that she's doing two routes or two directions. The first one focusing on togetherness, and that's really nicely explained here. And again, we don't have time to fully go through everything here, but there's some design principles that are applied in this one. And then for this first route, we have the first option, a little bit more abstract and more reminiscent of like the 60s like graphic styles. And this is a really cool logo. However, I feel like the donkey in this particular case is a little bit forced. So the way it's used with the C, the legs being forming the letter C, it's fairly obvious, but it's a bit forced in my opinion. It's a bit too much. I feel like the donkey could be in this logo, but maybe not becoming part of the type. I think that's a little bit too much. I like how the leaf, coffee plant leaf is integrated in there. I think that is already really nicely done. I don't think there was a need for integrating the donkey in this way. But the packaging itself, I think, is very unique. I love the abstraction in it. I love the wonkiness. There's a lot of energy in it. It's very dynamic. It works really well, and it looks great. These abstract illustrations look great in like visuals. But then there is another option as well for the same direction. Here we have the donkey as part of the logo in a different way, so the donkey gets a little bit more emphasis, and it looks really good. My only concern here again is too much use of black. I feel like it got a little bit too dark, and especially where the word coffee is almost overlapping that very dark detail there in the middle. That's a bit too much. But at the same time, I love how, again, the hair of this lady at the bottom is used as part of the like the background. It's almost like, again, is a container for the midground or center part of the design. So yeah, using the hair as a container is very smart, especially with these subtle out of bound details like this one here and that other leaf. And again, like how the donkey is coming out of the fields and overlapping the clouds. Nice, very nice layering of things. Maybe a little bit too busy. Like there's a little bit too much going on here as well. A bit overcrowded cover. But yeah, this is what we can see. And again, if you squint your eyes, you will be able to tell that this part here is just a bit too dark. It's almost like as if the ink ran over areas where it shouldn't be, the black ink. So yeah, it's a little bit overused in there. And this is looking really nice. And then here is the second direction where it's focusing on richness and rich in terms of fertile and flourishing. And then that's what we can see here. And this is my favorite one. So I love how the richness of this volcanic fertile soil is showing at the same time with the donkey. So the clever use of negative space, making it look like it's forming the legs of the donkey, is very nice. And I love this font. It works really well. And I also love this design. It's beautiful. My only concern when I first looked at it again is that it wouldn't immediately remind me of coffee, but then I noticed several hints of the coffee, the parts of the coffee plant and the coffee beans as well. So I still feel like this is one of my favorite covers or front elements for the packaging, and really nice color used on the side as well. Looks great in these mock-ups. And then that's it. Let's roast and toast to Hawaiian bliss. Amazing presentation, really in-depth research again, and very clear, like clearly guiding us through the thought process, the different directions, and again, like the history and the culture that's behind this project. So again, chef's kiss for Saida. Okay, now moving on. We have another hour to go through designs. Just gonna let you know that we have still a lot to cover, and I'm gonna try my best to cover everyone's work, but these were the ones that I covered so far, were really the standout designs. There will still be a couple of really good ones, but these were probably like these were the best selection. So what have you seen in these? There was already a lot to learn from it, and that's why I cover these first, because this is really, if you just pay attention to this first hour, that already is going to give you a very good like guidance on what you need to do. And no matter what type of graphic design work you do, these are the things that will help you in presenting them, and also how you approach the brief. But let's continue. And like I said, no particular order from now on, although I am going to go over the weaker ones at the end. But if you only watched up till this point, I highly recommend to stay, because sometimes you can actually learn more from seeing feedback on weaker designs, whether it's your design or not. Again, from things that didn't go right, you can actually learn a lot from that, and sometimes more than when you just look at amazing designs that feels like, oh, I will never be able to do that. So yeah, that's why it's very important to see all kinds of work, and I appreciate any level of experience, because I also learn a lot from just simply by looking at what other people do and how other people approach a project. So let me have some water, and then we can crack on. Okay, so moving on, we have Akhil's work, and let me just jump in here. Akhil from Kerala, India. So from Akhil's work, I really like the logo. If I just zoom a little bit down, or scroll down a bit, really like the logo, especially this part of the two eyes forming a cup. I think that's very clever. The coffee bean inside the A is also good, but yeah, like having too much elements injected into a typography can be a bit cheesy and overwhelming, but this is still the right balance. I still appreciate both of these little touches there. I probably would have been enough to have just this here, but this is not bad. I mean, it's still okay. Just remember, like, having too much of these little clever details peppered into the logo can be overwhelming, so try not to overdo it. This is always nice to see the thinking behind the placement of the elements in the logo, the spacing of things, and then again, like, the thinking behind it and the fonts that are used is always nice to see. And then we have the front panel. Looks really nice, and the colors are working well. The patterns are used here as well on the side, we can see. And yeah, overall I really like it. It's probably a little bit too dark overall. I would have changed a couple of colors around. I probably would have made the coffee cup or mug at the bottom brighter, like more this similar to this cream color. I would have used there. It also feels a little bit strange that the coffee seems to be like filled up to the brim. It just feels a little bit uncomfortable in the illustration. It could have been a little bit further down. Yeah, there's a couple of minor things here and there that makes it that could have been improved, but overall I really like the design. Nice presentation as well, and I would have liked to see the back of this packaging. I don't think that would have been a lot of extra work to do that, so that's only just another thing that I found is missing from here. But yeah, really nice work from Akhil. Now from Alexandra we have some amazing concepts and very clever ideas, and also quite a lot of work went into this, I can see. So there's 3 directions here, and the first thing that I noticed is the way everything is presented is great, but the way the text is formatted, these explanation paragraphs, they are just too big, and also having them centered aligned while they are clearly on the left and on the right of the page is again just strange. So I would have made, for instance, like this one around this size, so smaller font size, and align it to the left or the right, but left alignment would make much more sense, and it doesn't have to be justified either. And again, like this one here would have been enough to have it wrapped around roughly a shape like that. So the text shouldn't overpower the design. These supposed to be just small captions on the side people can read, but they shouldn't overpower the design. That's one thing that I found in this presentation a bit distracting, but the designs themselves are great. I love this design. There's a lot of things that I like here. For instance, I love how the coffee beans are joined together to form a volcano. Look how clever that is. And then we have the sun as well, which could be interpreted as the volcano erupting, or yeah, it's just simply the sun. Then I love this frame that is forming the leaves, palm leaves, and vegetation. That's really, really subtle, nice, atmospheric design that both works as a container but also adds that illustrative detail. So without like a fully colored illustration, it's just a simple single line that runs around but already describes so much and really sets the mood for the design. I also like this bottom section, the separation of the elements. So I'm just going to highlight it here. That's really nicely done. Subtle little details like that fish hook, Maui's fish hook there, obviously is a very important element in the Hawaiian culture, is there. Even at the bottom we can see it. And then we have a slightly different color variation on this, looks also nice. But again, everything is just too big, the text, and hyphenation is a big no for a small paragraph like this. They don't ever use hyphenation unless it's a book where you have a lot of text that you have to fit. There, hyphenation here and there is allowed, but not for presentations like this. So make sure you avoid that. Again, this looks great. I love the illustration. The fish hook is beautiful. In this case, the central part feels a little bit less effective. There's a bit too much negative space going on in the middle. It's more like the scaling of the elements. I would have made the sun a little bit bigger. Maybe the coffee beans could be bigger as well. Yeah, it's just shifting things around a bit. It would have made it much more effective. This color variation looks great, by the way. I really like it. But this, like from we've seen from the previous research, this feels a bit more like a decaf coffee because of the green being a dominant color. These colors are really cool. I really like it. And again, I would just change the combination or the proportions of the elements. But overall, really nicely done. So Great work by Alexandra. We can see the 3 variations here. To be honest, it's more like two designs and slightly different color variations. So I was wrong. It's not 3 directions. It's 2, but just using multiple color variations on it. Moving on, Joel did also a very nice work. Joel's design is very geometric, minimalist, nicely organized, some simple elements used throughout. I would say my main problem with this is that it doesn't really feel like a coffee packaging. It feels more like milk when I first look at it. That's what I think of. It's some kind of milk, like almond milk maybe, is what I would think of when I look at it without reading anything from it. So it doesn't make it clear that we are looking at coffee. There's not a single element that ties it to coffee, in my opinion, apart from obviously the type itself. But yeah, it's a shame, because otherwise it's a very nice design. We actually have an alternative version of it, and this looks like an orange juice. So again, great use of elements, but it's so important that you always keep in mind the actual material or the product that it's made of. So you don't have to be super obvious of using coffee beans all throughout the design, as we've already seen with the previous examples, but still there has to be something that connects it. And yeah, like just simply the colors changed didn't bring it closer to coffee product. It's still, like I said, this feels like more like orange juice, especially with that sun really being reminiscent of a sliced orange. So yeah, you just have to be very careful of how you use your colors. So although I love the presentation, I'm just going to zoom a little bit closer. Oh, by the way, this is also another thing you have to be very careful about. Typically, this happens if you are using Adobe Illustrator and from there you export your work, or if you prepare different things in different applications and then you stitch it together later in Acrobat, you end up having different page formats and page sizes for different elements. So if I zoom out of this, look what's happening here. We have huge pages for the first 2 pages. Then we have a tiny page for the third one, completely different size for the fourth one, completely different size for the fifth one, and then we have again huge pages for the sketches. So you have to be very careful at doing your presentation and make sure that all the pages are the same size. You don't want any additional steps. You shouldn't expect any additional steps from your client or reviewer to do when they go through your work. And that's why sometimes having a single long vertical image work better, where they literally just have to scroll down, which is like a single scrolling page on a website. So that's just something to keep in mind. But otherwise, it's a great work. Also, just wanted to point out for Joel, I love your sketches and I really appreciate seeing these, but it's a little bit too much to show all of these. It could have been tidied up a bit, and just summarize it in a single page is fine. Maximum 2 pages, but I don't need to see all the pages. So it's not going to be more convincing that there has been more work put into it by seeing all the sketches. Instead, like remember that example where we saw a single sketch and how it turned into the final work sometimes actually speaks more than seeing 100 sketches. Yeah. So less is more in this case. We don't have to see all the sketches. Again, it's a feedback not just for Joel, but for anyone who's listening. All right. Hannah is here. Hannah, I know that you are here on the live call as well. I believe it's you. No, actually, it might be another Hannah. Not sure now because this is Hannah Laura. Might not be your work. Okay, cool. So this one by Hannah it has, let me just see, yeah, so it has first of all again a bit of mind mapping we can see, and then we have a few mock-ups, but then here is the main panel, the front panel of the packaging, color choices, and then in a mock-up with a something like almost like an advert or banner, and it's a really cool design. I really like it. Again, it's the Hawaiian symbols turned into this pattern, forming a background for the design, and having a really nice focal point on the, I believe it's a hibiscus flower, or maybe it's the flower of the coffee. I'm not 100% sure from this tiny little detail, but that's a really nice little touch there. And I like, again, the hierarchy used here at the bottom, although we've seen some better examples of this, but it still looks quite nice. And overall, it's a nice design. It's a little bit too bright. There's not enough contrast in it. If I squint my eyes, it just turns gray, and I fear that would happen on a shelf. It would get lost among some more vibrant, more funky packaging. It's definitely sophisticated, but a little bit too I don't want to use the word dull, but it's just like too monochrome and lacks contrast. That's my main issue here. Having said that, when you have something that is very low on contrast and then you highlight something, even though it's small in scale, it really jumps off the design. So it really becomes a focal point. So it can be very effective when you utilize this well. But overall, really nice work, Hannah. I really like this and enjoyed going through this. Then we have Evangelia, who is one of our Plus students. So she created this design by, I believe this is, rubber carving. So she actually did this by hand. First created a sketch, then based on that she did the rubber carving block, and then she used an Illustrator image trace once that was used to add the paint on paper, and that was then used to turn into vectors. And this is the first design, so that's one of the first direction. It's a really cool concept and very unique. However, there's a couple of things here that I feel like reduces the impact of this work. The colors are too vibrant. All the colors are close to primary colors, so they clash a bit, especially this brown, although obviously coffee is supposed to be brown, but the brown injected into these other colors just really stands out, and it just doesn't fit in there. But the other colors are almost like the CMYK colors, so it's like the default print colors, cyan, magenta, yellow. So that's just something that you have to keep in mind. Avoid using these primary colors, and also you have to be very careful about how you combine your colors. They have to work well together. Also, the text is too closely aligned with the patterns. If I use a pattern as a frame, I would have kept the text around this far from it, so give a little bit more margin for your text. And again, the same thing here. This text really feels squeezed in there. The design elements around it overpowering the text, the tagline. And again, like the coffee company's name being on the left feels a little bit strange. It's like out of balance. In this case, I would have moved that to the center. This font, by the way, works really well. I love this font. It's really good choice. So that's a definite positive on this. By the way, this is how it looks. Another quick mention here. If you do mock-ups, you have to be very careful not to stretch your design. So in this case, I can clearly see there's a vertical stretch going on. The text is a clear giveaway of that happening. So you just have to be careful at that, at doing that. Another direction, too much reliance on a gradient in the background, especially a gradient where it's turning too dark, from quite bright to turning very dark. If you are using a gradient, it should be a more subtle gradation, and again, not trying to inject this very dark edge or vignette for the design. The illustration itself is fun. Maybe a little bit too much it's a bit too overpowering. It distracts from what this product is about. But yeah, I appreciate the effort that went into it. It's just, yeah, it's not really effective. I think having it something like that already works a little bit better. But there's a little bit too much going on again. It's hard to decipher what to focus on. A lot of things fighting for attention. And that actually already shows in the sketch. So I would have been able to tell already from the sketch that there will be a little bit too much going on here. It has to be simplified. Like this one already works a little bit better. Although it's same type of composition, but start to be a little bit simpler, and that helps. However, the back again has a little bit too much. This pattern is clearly repetitive, not in a good way. It's like has a strange repetition that breaks up the overall design. Colors are again a little bit too primary, but yeah, the concepts are really good. There's a lot of really good ideas here that with refinement and just polishing this, I think it would lead to really amazing designs. Like, I love the concept of the carving block and doing the tiki mask again. Again, like this dancer could work really well, and the volcano and the parrots. There's a lot of really cool ideas here and interesting elements. Just needs more refinement and polishing for it to work. And then, it is similar to lino cut or wood cut, the similar technique. That was a really cool example of, we've been to an illustration fair where a guy was doing potato printing. So he's cutting from potatoes. In a similar fashion, he cuts out the shape that then he's using to stamp onto things, and he had the whole alphabet created from potatoes, and people could even use it there while we were there at the fair. It's really cool. If you look for potato stamp designer, I believe you will be able to find him. It's a very unique technique, and the only disadvantage is that potatoes obviously will rot after a couple of days, so you can't, or it gets soggy, you can't use it anymore. It doesn't keep it doesn't stay firm, unless I guess it's put in the freezer. Maybe it can be preserved for longer. But yeah, it's just, there's so much creative things like that, and it is great to utilize these traditional media techniques in your work. So not to fully rely on digital is a good idea, and it always makes the work more exciting and relatable. All right, so moving on, we have this work submitted by Katerina. You probably already know what I'm going to say. I feel like it's a bit too dark, but as we've seen, some coffee packaging is very like dominant with the black, but already out of the two designs, I like this so much better. Maybe a little bit too childish, the way the tiki mask is represented here. I feel like maybe it's the eyeballs, the way it's done is the one that distracts me from appreciating this design. It just becomes a little bit like a big smiley face. It's a bit too like kid friendly, and it doesn't speak to that target audience that we want to relate to with our product. And then we have the additional designs here, and then we have another variation. Although I like negative space, this is too much negative space, so it's just this too much in terms of proportions used or was unutilized. That's the main problem with this design. Otherwise, it's a nice style. It would have worked well as a visual style. So great work, Katerina. Probably out of your examples, this one was my favorite. So again, going back, that is the strongest composition. Now moving on to the next set of designs here. We have one from Stephanie from our survival kit. So she's joined our survival kit course, and she put together this presentation for us. Really nice start. I like this, like a first fold on a website. It kicks off the conversation, and then we get to see the design. Very nice hierarchy, really good layout. I love how the typography really stands out by having this dark foreground. It allows for the text to really stand out, but also the clear sky has a great focus for the brand itself. And we can see that she also used just double checking, yes, Stephanie also used the double steam, the steam coming off the eyes. So again, like this looks a little bit like, to be honest, they look more like two candles next to each other, but it can be seen as a smoking coffee cup. I'm not sure if it was also intentional or not, because I don't see it explained here in the brief. I quite like the fact that there is a map on the back of the packaging. That's quite nice and interesting information. And then, yeah, there's a lot of explanation on the design decisions. I just really like the colors. I think it works very well. Definitely gets that Hawaiian tropical sunset or sunrise vibe. To be honest, the colors are more sunset. That's the only issue here. There's a very particular distinction between sunset and sunrise. Sunrise is usually a little bit more red, and sunset can be more pinkish like this or purplish. But it can depend on the weather as well. It can affect the colors, so sometimes these things can overlap. I'm not saying it's obviously sunset, but when I look at it, it feels more like a sunset to me. But anyway, really nice work still. Moving on, we have Petya, and Petya did a really nice work. I like how I immediately see the variations here. So we have three designs, different colors, different type, and layout used. I would say out of all of these, this is probably my favorite one, the first one. But there's certain aspects that I like of the other designs as well. Some more mock-ups, some rationale and research, mood board, really nicely done. This is a beautiful presentation of the sketches, by the way. I love the nicely organized sketches on the left and some of the implementations on the right. Really nicely detailed explanation here as well of all the elements. Some more sketches, thumbnail sketches, again, just straight to the point. I don't have to see all the variations, just some of the good ones. And then we can see the flat lay version on the right, and we can see the 3D mock-up on the left. Very good layout. In terms of presentation, Petya's work is one of the best ones. Very effective, gets to the point. Within 10 pages or 10 slides, I've got all the information that I needed. Yeah, great presentation. And like I said, one of the best presentations. And out of the three designs, I like this one the most. The only issue that I have with it is that there is not not a single strong element that ties everything together. I feel like there's a lot of little things here and there, but there is no dominant element. The sun is probably trying to be the only dominant element, but that could have been easily made bigger, in my opinion. Like, it could have been in the center, made bigger. I think it would have worked better. But yeah, that's just a quick feedback on that. Moving on, we have Anne, who submitted this design. Too dark, first of all. Contrast is good, but it's a bit too dark. The images look straight away distorted. I don't know why, but they just feel distorted, like the proportions of details in it feels like squeezed in. This text is clearly distorted. I don't know this font, but I can tell that it's distorted. That's something you have to be really careful about. Also, avoid using lorem ipsum. I think those times are gone when we use lorem ipsum. Now you have ChatGPT. If you need a paragraph, just say, write some backstory of a coffee for me, and then AI is going to write it for you. So yeah, don't be lazy using lorem ipsum anymore. That's there's no excuse because it's so easy to do with AI some made up text. And yeah, we have a couple of variations. Yeah, just too dark. Overall, very dark. This one is a little bit better, but on this one, there's just too much going on. A typical mistake, frame within frame within frame. Let's just count how many frames we can see here. So we have a frame on the edge, which is the edge of the product. Then we have a second frame, right? Then we have a third frame, this white frame. Then we have another frame here. And then obviously this is also a frame. And then within that, there is another frame. And then within that, there are these smaller frames. And I'm not trying to pick on the bottom section because that is a very common layout. But even that, in that case, I would have eliminated this frame. So I would just have the text on top of whatever background is there. But then there are, like we've seen, 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. No, 5 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 4 frames just here on the top. Yeah, frame within a frame within a frame within a frame is just too much. Okay, so try to avoid doing that. Overusing a design element is always going to overpower the design. Okay, now we have Jason. Jason is one of our pro members, and he actually submitted this already last month for review. So I've seen this, and he improved it a bit. That's a bit of an advantage of our pro member students, that they can obviously ask for feedback from me before the final review. It's not common, by the way. I'm just going to turn on some lights here because it's getting dark in here, and one of my lights was just getting a little bit too strong. Might be a bit too bright now, but hopefully I won't get blinded. But you probably will see me a little bit better. So what I was saying is that Jason already got some feedback from me on this design, and he improved it. I don't actually have the previous version, but it was mainly about the margins, like he was getting the text too close to the edges, and there was a couple of additional things that he improved here. Overall, I like it. The image is a little bit too much and also too AI-ish, if that's a word. Like, it's a bit too obvious that AI has been used. It's a bit too much colors going on. Yeah, like overwhelming amount of colors. And this little window into the product, that transparent section, is a very clever design, and that's always useful to have on a product. But it just gets lost because of that very vibrant and busy image that we have behind it. So I feel like maybe just simply making this a little bit brighter would have helped in this particular mock-up, just to make it more visible. But overall, it's a nice design. I like the colors, and there's a lot of things that went really well here, and Jason did a good job on. Moving on, we have Mohiul, who took our Illustrator Fast Track course and the Taster course. And immediately I have to say I love this font. This font is really nice. It's a very good choice. It works really well both for the company name and the product name. And overall, I really like the colors and this like slightly vintage travel illustration style. And then I am not 100% sure about this page because it doesn't actually relate to the design itself. So it's a bit strange to have this big pattern here when it's not actually part of the design. So it's a bit misleading. It's almost like makes me feel like there's some more directions are coming, but then no, it's just like a background for this slide. So yeah, I don't think that was a good choice. It could have easily been done just having this a little bit to the side. So move this there, and then from the next page having this section moved up one page, and then just have 2 pages. You don't have to have a 3rd page just to make it longer. If you can wrap up your the work that you've done within 2 pages or 2 slides, there is no harm in doing that. Oh, it's your work, Aklas. Was it your work? I can see your comment. Yes. Don't be sorry about it. That's just something that in the future you have to keep in mind, that unnecessarily you don't need to include things that is like a very dominant element within a slide, and then it's actually not part of the design. But overall, I really like the work. You've done a really nice job. I really like the colors, the composition, the proportions of things. My only concern again is the proportion of the sun. It feels stretched, so it's like it's not circular. That immediately stood out to me. That is strange. Here in the front it's fine, but on the back it was stretched to fit that format. So that's also something, just really be careful about that, especially if you have people in the faces or people in images. That's immediately noticeable, even if it's just a couple of percent stretching in one direction or another. Same with fonts. You have to be very careful. But again, like geometric shapes like the sun, which is supposed to be perfect circle, immediately noticeable if it's not a perfect circle. Now we have a design submitted by Shilpa, another cool illustration. I really like this. It's like a bit like a Lego character, but I really like it. It has a lot of character and nice presentation. I love to see this, the sketch and then refinement on the sketch, the different colors used, and then how it turns out in an actual product. I think for me, the main issue that I have is that the colors are a little bit just too much. There's too many different colors are competing for attention. I think if the colors were simplified a bit, these would work very well. And out of the 2, I actually prefer this one more. I think that has a little bit more potential, I believe, mainly because of that blue and the pink on the top already connects better with the colors that we see on the wreath and the bikini that this lady is wearing. So there's a little bit more repetition there and unity. But overall, I really like it. It's a very unique design. It would definitely stand out from a shelf, mainly because of that really cute like emotion of the joy and bliss and happiness that comes through from this design. And I mentioned this on a previous design that it looked a bit childish. This feels slightly childish as well, but it gets away with it because of how unique this character is. So I think, yeah, here in this case, Shilpa did a really good job getting that right, that like whimsical character, but still making it look interesting. Now this one is by, I believe, Kerry. Let's just see. Kerry, yes. And we have the PDF. Let's just open up the PDF quickly. Love the font. I have to say the font is great, although it gets a little bit hard to read on longer text. It actually works really well here. Yeah, maybe a little bit overused or overutilized, I would say. And then I would also keep the margins a bit wider, especially when you have a product packaging. You have to be mindful of these things bend, so they are not completely solid around the edges. So you have to make sure you don't get too close to the edges. I love the colors. In this case, I think the colors work really well, and the typography goes along with the simplicity and like randomness of the font or the typeface. So yeah, out of the two, I actually probably prefer the white one. Although we could argue again from a distance, it looks more like a juice than a coffee packaging. And that's, again, I'm trying not to repeat myself. So whatever I already talked about, I try not to repeat. Here we have a work by Shamian, one of our other pro member students. We can see the flat lay, or yeah, the not flat lay, what is it called? I forgot the term for packaging design. If someone can help me out, when you have it laid down like this, just a flat view of all the panels next to each other. I don't think it's flat lay. There's another term for it. Anyway, someone clever will help me out. Die line, yes, die line. There's actually another word for it as well, but yeah, the die line view of it we can see here, and we have a nice design, a nice illustration. I'm not sure whether it was AI. It feels a little bit AI to me, actually quite a lot. But that's mainly because I can't see any sketches or drawings. I'm not sure. I don't want to say for certain that it's AI, but if I don't see a sketch and if I don't see the workflow, how someone got to an illustration, unfortunately, we live in a time that I would expect everything to be AI generated. So it has to be proven that it's not AI for me to consider that it was actually illustrated by hand. So that's important to show in case you actually spend time doing illustration. Yeah, die cut is another way of saying it. Okay, then moving on. I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit just to make sure I didn't skip anyone. Okay, I can see I jumped over Jamie's work. Jamie did this design. Thanks for reminding me to come back to your work. So here we have a nice color combination. I like the fact you are not using black, you're using a dark green. It's already much better. I still feel like it's a little bit too dark for my taste, but I think it works. I like the proportions of things as well. I like the colors that you are using, and yeah, it's a very nice design. And yes, nicely structured typography as well. Yeah, nice minimal illustration on the front. Very elegant and sophisticated design. There's nothing really wrong that I can say that stands out to me. Maybe the only thing is that it's not immediately obvious that it's a coffee packaging, and maybe the names are a little bit too small and they are placed right on the top. Maybe you could have utilized this space here in the middle a bit more, have only the Hawaiian Bliss coffee on the top, and then write Aloha Sunrise Blend here, further down, overlapping that big negative space. So that negative space there in the middle, I think, could have been utilized better. But besides that, I think it's a very nice and elegant design. So it's a really good work. Okay. And there you go. Rose likes yours the best so far. I agree that it's a very nice one. I'm glad we didn't skip yours. We have Monica's design here. Monica, let's have a look at your work. So that's the packaging. Straight away, it feels a little bit strange of having a flat panel stacked on top of this montage of different things, like having a tiki line art, then a photo behind it, then a strong background color at the bottom. Yeah, it's just a little bit strange to have started on that one. It would have been better just having white background and just see the product itself. But then we see the back and the front. They are quite disconnected to me. The background has a photo in it that's really not necessary. Actually, sorry, it seems like maybe that is not used in the final design. Maybe that was just used as a reference. Again, it's not clear because of the layout. Like, I'm not 100% sure what I am looking at. Like, this one probably was used as a reference and that was turned into the final art. There is an illustration here. This sketch is really nice, by the way. Then there's the colors are really good too. Nice choice of colors. And yeah, okay. So yeah, I would actually have started the whole PDF with this and this side by side next to each other already on the front slide. That would clear a lot of doubts and questions that I had going through this PDF. So nice font choices. Little bit too much similarity between the sky and the water. I would have separated the two a little bit more. But I love this floral details at the bottom and the sand. That looks really nice. And the fonts as well are very nice on the top. That works well. Overall, I feel like the floral details overpower the front. There's just a little bit too much of them, too prominent. And then the actual text overlaps the palm tree in not a comfortable way. It almost forms like a tangent as well here. The palm leaf just literally like points onto the top of the E. Yeah, like everything feels a little bit squeezed in. There's not enough breathing space. It's just overpowering all of those floral elements. I think reducing those would help a lot. You can still use all of those. It just needs to be refined a bit. For some reason, the sketch works much better. I saw more potential in the sketch than in the final version of it. And I think that's mainly not because of the way it's stylized. I think it's a little bit too much colors. Limiting the colors would help, and also just scaling things down a bit and having less dominance on the floral elements would have helped. Otherwise, really nice work, Monica. Claudia, we have a nice design from Claudia as well. And we can see the sketch at the beginning. Then we have some references and mood board. That's such a cool illustration in the center. And then we have the packaging. Little bit too simplistic for my liking. There's probably a couple of things missing, like the tagline. I would have liked to see some more information about the product on the front. There's plenty of space for it. This font, although it's cool, it's a bit too hard to read. So it's like over stylized for like less functional, more stylistic. You always have to find a good balance between function and style, and then on the back, not enough margin on the around the text, and having center text is not ideal. I would have just used left aligned or justified text here. I think that would have been much better. Even though there's an element in the center, the text itself doesn't have to be centered. Although the whole composition is trying to be very symmetrical, you don't have to force everything to be centered. I have to say the treatment or the textures that are on the illustration look really good. Let me just zoom back a bit. It really feels like it's been cut out from paper and feels very manually created. So yeah, I like the textures. Most likely it's a digital illustration, but it's still nicely achieved, that aesthetic. Robin, one of our pro member students who took part in the design sprint as well, she has done an amazing job there. She's a very talented painter and illustrator. She has done a good job on this. However, I have to say that the packaging feels a little bit dated. It feels something that would have been okay, I don't know, like in the 90s. But to compete with the current products on shelves, I think it needs to be a bit more modern. Like the font especially would work much better if it's not script everywhere, but actually like has some more bolder sans serif fonts. The 100% Kona is too small. It's a good way of showing it, like a badge there, but it should have been at least like around this size. And again, the brand itself having a foil stamp on the top with this ribbon around it is a bit over the top, like it's a bit cheesy. That could have been simplified a lot more. Less is more would help here. And the illustration is very nice. I believe Robin explains that it was done with generative AI. It is actually a very nice illustration, and it could have worked better if that was scaled up. So I wouldn't use all this in the background, and I also wouldn't use any of this further in the background, like all of these pattern. I would just use this illustration and I would focus on that, and have some negative space to let the design breathe, and then have some nice, really nice, stylish font choices, and a bit more information on the top. On the front panel. So it has a lot of potential. You are on the right track. You just have to, refine it based on what I mentioned. Like it already looks better here on the mock-up a little bit, but again, it's still just a little bit too much going on. You try to squeeze in too much, but I love the sketch, and I guess based on your sketch you generated the image, and then all of these elements, it's just ending up a little bit too much altogether. The frames on frames on frames, a very common problem. I used to make that mistake in the past a lot. You utilize too much frames. Okay, so we have another submission by Jane McCarthy. Let's open this up. Okay, nice presentation. I'm just gonna jump through things a little bit quicker. Research, colors, and then the front and the back. Okay, main problem here is that the text is hard to read. Legibility is suffering in the middle because of the treatment of the text. So the way Aloha is written is a bit too forced. This one is a quite cool font, but it has that bright purple or pink outline around it, which again is not necessary. I would have removed that and maybe just make the text itself pink. That would have really stood out. But the problem is also because it's so big, the word Kona, it almost feels like that's the brand name. So it's the hierarchy is not clear. What is what? This is the main thing that distracts from the rest. I think this has to be much smaller, and it has to be maybe a little bit more text explanation of what that is, like 100% Kona coffee for something like that would make more sense instead of just the word Kona. But otherwise, very nice work by Jane. So good stuff. I would love to see a refined version on many of these. There's so many really good work here that we are going through. Would love to see that. Okay. All right. Moving on, we have still quite a lot. and we have 5 minutes left, so I might need to speed things up a bit. I will try my best to go through these. We have this work by Maya. I'm just going to jump to Photoshop. I had to open this up in Photoshop because it just didn't fit in on MILANOTE. So Maya, I remember mentioned that she struggled with this brief, and she was even planning not to submit anything. I'm still very happy that you decided to submit it. I can see that you didn't feel as comfortable in this as some of the previous contests that you took part in, and being one of the previous winners of a contest. I can tell that there's still a lot of design principles utilized really well here. Proportions are really good. The font choices are great. They complement each other really well. The main issue is that I feel like you couldn't really settle on one clear dominant element. You tried again, like the sun, the palm leaves, the this tropical plant. I'm not sure, is it a lily or a hibiscus flower? Again, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's like there's nothing really that takes center stage. A lot of things compete for attention, but nothing really takes center stage. So that's the main problem here. I feel like finding like a guiding element like the sun, a volcano, or an island or something like that would have helped, instead of distributing the attention amongst all of these things. Yeah, paradise flower, that's it. Yeah, a little bit like, it's great to explore and create all of these assets, but then you have to decide, okay, what will I use actually for my main compositional element, and then the rest should just be a supporting detail. Like the way you use your line art as a background element, I think that works very well. And if I had to choose out of the two, I would actually choose this one out of these two. I think it works better, and probably because there is no frame within a frame. Actually, there is an elliptical frame here, but at least the design is not cut into like 3 sections by that central frame in the one on the left side. Cool. So yeah, a bit hard to arrange these elements. I can see that you were struggling with that, but otherwise really good color choices, font choices, so there's a lot to like about it. Okay, let me move on to Marta. We will definitely run over the 2-hour for this session. I want to go through everyone's work, even if it's just briefly. Marta is also someone who submitted work for previous contests and was amongst the winners. Also did a very nice illustration for this. We can see it's like based on sketches, then a lot of work went into this in Adobe Illustrator, and Marta has a very unique style. I almost already would be able to recognize her style without even seeing her name on it. That's really good. There are a couple of things. The text is hard to read a bit. There's also some typos, like there should be an additional I in here that stands out straight away. I feel like it might be a little bit too abstract for this product, but it's definitely quirky and unique, and it would stand out from the shelves. Maybe again the colors need a little bit more oomph, more emphasis. The volcano, I love how it's created with these patterns. If I just zoom a little bit closer on that side, yeah, I really like this composition, and also like the smoke coming out of the volcano almost reminds us of the coffee itself, and that's actually a clever thing that no one utilized, like the volcano and the coffee cup combined together. I would have done that myself. And another thing, before I forget, that I haven't seen, maybe there is someone's work that I haven't seen so far, but the aloha hand sign, I thought someone will do this, but I thought that this is some like common knowledge that the shaka is it's like the official hand gesture that represents aloha, spirit, love, and local pride in Hawaii. So yeah, I think that would have been a really cool thing to utilize as well. I'm surprised that no one thought of that. All right, so moving on, we have, by the way, I've never been to Hawaii, so I'm not an expert on Hawaii. I love their culture, the Polynesian culture in general. I'm a big fan of. I've been to Bali, that's probably, in Costa Rica. These are probably the closest places I've been to in terms of, like, I don't know, culture, but obviously they are very different at the same time. So I would love to go to Hawaii. So if anyone lives there, let me know if I can visit and go. Actually, we have a student, a pro member student from Hawaii. I recall they relocated to Hawaii from one of the other states in the US. But yeah, I would love to visit. It's one of those places I always wanted to visit. Okay, so going quickly now, we have Unnati, generally too dark, lacking contrast. This design, like if you squint your eyes, you can hardly see what's going on here. That's a general good like rule of thumb. Judging your design, if you squint your eyes, can you still clearly make out all the elements? If not, you have to add more contrast and scale things up a bit, change the proportions. This design by Shalise is very nicely presented, very quick, straight to the point. I understand what's going on. I like the colors. The volcano illustration is a little bit too simplistic, like a very tight crop on that. It's a little bit strange, but otherwise, really good color choices. That's my main feedback on this one. Svetla did a couple of directions. This pink one doesn't feel like coffee to me, more like a perfume or soap. This one, again, more like tea, less coffee vibe. And again, some kind of bath, like, I don't know, something to do in the bath with, again, I'm not sure what it is, but it's like a spa type of product, more like. Nice sketches, it's good to include them, but yeah, a little bit lacking in terms of presentation as well, very less, not enough information. So in the presentation, it would be good to see a bit more information. This is quite cool. I like it. Like vintage retro vibes to it. I dig. And not sure about the black leaf. Again, black is such a dominant color, overpowers everything immediately. Like it's like burns a hole in the whole design when you slap a big black detail like that on it. That's something to avoid. Then we have Adam, a bit chaotic, too abstract. Colors are not bad. Nothing that really stands out. Nothing that unites the design. So yeah, I would glance over that easily. I wouldn't recognize it on a shelf. This is not bad, but a little bit too minimal. Everything is aligned in the center, in the same box. I like the way the leaves are coming in front of that box. And the colors are not bad as well. This font is quite cool, or it might be a handmade design, but again, I don't have any information about it. So next time if you submit your work, Joe, maybe add a little bit more backstory and explanation. Haynes did this design. Like here, I like the way it's pointing out details and explains the creative decisions. And then we have a mock-up. It's actually a really cool design. I quite like this one. It has these cuts that reveal little details, but the text is very dominant. And that's what I meant. Like, it doesn't have to be an illustrative detail that is dominant, that stands out. It can be the name itself of the product. Like the Hawaiian Bliss coffee is really nicely separated on the top. Some photographic detail of coffee beans makes it immediately clear what we are looking at. But again, instead of this, what I would have done is to just have a transparent detail somewhere on the packaging where we actually see the coffee beans inside. And it's always better to do that at the bottom, because that's where the coffee beans will be sitting for sure, filling in the space in the product itself. So yeah, I would have done that at the bottom. But other than that, I really like it. It's a really cool design. It's obviously coffee as well. Like when I look at this, I know it's a coffee because of the font, the color on the font, the coffee bean nicely integrated into the main text, and yeah, just the general vibe of it makes it clear that it's coffee. So we have the some more designs here. Anas, I think, submitted several variations, and yeah, I have a note here from Shumi that she also included some videos in the presentation. It's probably better not to do that in the future. We had some issues with these files. I think there was even a virus on one of them or something like that. So I appreciate the extra effort that went into it, but it's enough to just have a PDF, or maybe link it to a YouTube video if you want to use a video to explain what you're doing. But generally nice design and nice presentation. And I am sorry, but I think we will have to wrap up at this point, because I can just, by looking at all of these other designs, I can see the same things repeated that I already pointed out earlier. There are some nice ideas here, like this one is quite unique, but yeah, lack of contrast or lack of dominant element, too much things going on. Like this is actually really nice colors. So I'm not saying these are worse than the ones that we've seen. Like this one is, again, is quite nice and pleasant design, but they are not standout designs. They are not the ones that I would highlight. So, and that's why, like before, I wanted to start with the ones that are the strongest. So I am going to now conclude this stream by announcing the winners. And like I mentioned, we will have 3 winners. I'm going to start with the third, and then the second, and then the first. On our website, by the way, you can find what each of the winners get. So if I just jump back to our website, I can just show this quickly. Let me jump back here. Forgot to point this out at the beginning. So we have the 3 places: 3 months pro membership for the first place, 2 months for the second, 1 month for the third, and then a MILANOTE lifetime pro access for the first place as well. I mentioned this last year that we actually are working with more partners this year, and you can expect to see more prizes coming, hopefully already in the next contest. So that's something that we are actively working on, having more, maybe even physical prizes, like hardware or software, like MILANOTE, like subscription and things like that. But this is something that we will announce later once we talk about our upcoming contests. Okay, so I am going to say that the third place for this contest, I am going to give I'm really split on this one. There's several of them who would deserve to be in the first 3, but I feel like the third one for me is going to be Samantha. I really liked this patchwork design. I think it's very unique, and I really appreciated the extra effort that went into it. Now, I would say Magdalena is also going to be a third, like a split third. But Magdalena, since she's working with us also, she also has access to the pro membership. It's not something that she's gonna get as an additional gift, but I would like to have her like as an honorary mention, being a third place with her design. Then second place is for Ivana. It's going for Ivana. It's the design itself is great, but I really like all the research that went into her work, the presentation of it, and overall I feel like it really represents a lot of things that we wanted to see in this brief. So there's a second place for her. And then again, for the third place, for the first place, there was a lot of thinking that I've done. But out of all, I've seen some of you mentioned as well that most likely it's going to be her. It's actually Saida, who I feel like deserves the first place, both in terms of her research, her attention to detail, her presentation, and overall the designs, especially this one on the right. Although it's quite dark, and I mentioned this many times before, but this is not black, it's like just dark brown. I think it really, really works well as a unique standout design. So yes, these are the winners, and I congratulate everyone who took part in this, because I always say this, but I feel like each time we are running a contest, it is getting better and better. Like we are getting more and more really good work, and I also love the fact that there's always new names coming up. There's also returning names who work with us and really try to up their game and get better. Like Eklas, I appreciate that you work on each of these contests, and you just have to keep learning from these the feedback that I give, and eventually with hard work you will be able to get amongst the winners. It's just about continuing doing contests and continuing working. The more hours you put in and the more attention you put into your research is going to show in the future. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone's work on this. Congratulations for the winners, and keep an eye out for future contests. But to change pace, and instead of me judging others' work, this Friday, again, like I said, if nothing goes wrong and I can actually host that workshop, it's going to be on Friday at 2 p.m. It's going to be a 3 hours long workshop. 3 hours is not a lot of time to put together a professional design, but I will try my best to get to as far as possible in my workflow. So you will be able to see how I work, and the coin will be flipped. All of you will be able to criticize me and judge me while I'm working. So that would be fun, right? Hopefully you can join, and again, hopefully you will be able to learn from what we will do together. And by the way, that workshop will be, during that workshop, it will be encouraged for everyone to also work on the same project while I'm working on it. So it will be, in a way, collaborative as well. So we can have back and forth ideas. You can share sketches while I'm working, which I can show in the stream. So yeah, let's see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to it, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us, and can't wait to see more work for our next contest, which is soon to be revealed. Sign up to our newsletter if you want to be updated, and keep an eye on our YouTube channel for upcoming live streams. Like I said, the one on Friday is already scheduled, so you can already hit the bell icon on it if you don't want to miss it. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Love to chat with you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.